You're concerned about people that care about everything.
It really bothers me. People have really strong opinions on every single aspect or like discussion. That's concerning to me.
What if you're really passionate about a lot of things?
Then you should go to therapy.
I'm already in therapy. Jeez. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Hey, it's Lynn Stroy, and you're listening to the Intergenerational Summer Series of the Seacoast podcast. As you can see, today's topic is a bit heavier in nature. The Millennial Gen-X hybrid group will kick off this 3-part discussion on church unity despite political differences, racism, and Christian nationalism. Next week, our Boomer group will discuss this topic, and then Gen Z will wrap it up before we move on to our last 3 episodes that cover a variety of topics. But right now, it's our Millennial and Gen X group diving into some deep and often polarizing issues. We highly encourage you, if you didn't start at episode 1 of this series, go back and take a listen so you can hear a bit of the background on the wonderful people contributing to this series. We hope you have a great summer, and thanks for listening to the Intergenerational Series of the Seacoast podcast. Now, here's Amy, David, Sean, and Sparkle alongside our host, Joey Svensson.
We can dabble in some things, but once it gets to the point where it derails the mission, I pull it back. I used to think that was such a cop-out. No politics. I used to say that. That's my boyfriend says all the time. No politics whenever he talks to his different friends.
Is that Valley Girl?
It's difficult when there are things that I do hold close to my heart, and sometimes people don't respect or treat that with respect. Mm-hmm. And so I try to not hurt the people who have those closely held opinions and try to have grace with people who do end up hurting my closely held opinions.
I'm not super proud of who we are right now. Jesus wasn't go Judea. You know what I mean? He wasn't like, yay, Bethlehem. I just don't think it matters where you live. What matters is, are we salt? Are we light? You know, like,
which is the church's job.
And then I realized, man, you gotta get over yourself because, you know, coming back to the theme, you do not know. And so I've tried to feel that way about racism, but it exists. I think it's just as bad today.
Wow, that's a strong.
I agree.
That's a strong statement, yeah.
So how's everybody doing?
Good. Ready for that.
Not bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you were on that screen last time. We're happy to have
yeah. It was nice to be here among the friends.
Yeah, I love it.
you. Are we the 4 of us more attractive in person?
Very much, yes. Yeah.
Are you shocked? You were like on when I was looking at that screen.
Look at David's beard over there. I mean, that head of hair.
It really pops in person.
Yeah.
So I'm getting graphics and different little quick takes on the different generations, and I'm collecting them because we're doing this series. So here's one they said about Gen X, and what I did is to kind of go back to our first parter on AI and tech. I asked Claude AI to replicate this little quick take of Gen X and do one for the millennials. So I'm just going to see what y'all think about these.
Okay.
First, the one that I encountered on social media, it says Gen X defined. Currently 45 to 60, currently looks 30 to 40, will throw hands, words can't hurt us, great work ethic, 0 tolerance for stupidity.
Yeah, check.
check. How you feel about that?
Hit the nail on the head.
All right. So I asked Claude, for those of you that don't know who Claude is, it's actually kind of like Chat GPT, and you get a kick out of this. My daughter just 3 weeks ago said, "Dad, what are you saying?" And I was like, Chat GPT. She's like, "It's Chat GPT. I've been saying GBT all this time."
Oh, bless your heart.
cute.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I got an awe. But then I know what the bless your heart means. Oh, stupid. That's basically what you said.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It's southern.
It's the southern way.
Yeah.
But, oh,
Right. Oh,
Joey.
bless your heart. Bless your little stupid heart. All right. So millennials, currently 30 to 44, still get carded occasionally, and we're not mad about it. We'll absolutely throw hands, but first we'll send a passive-aggressive email documenting why. We were told words could hurt us. We unlearned that in therapy that we're still paying off. We work hard, but we've also learned to log off. We have some tolerance for stupidity. We've had to. There's been a lot of it.
Dang,
Yeah.
yes.
Checks out.
That checks
I'm so
out.
glad you put throw hands on there still. Because I was
Yeah.
like, I would throw hands too. When they got that, I was like, yeah.
All right. Well, I don't even have to ask, do you guys feel the polarity in our society? We all feel it. We see it. We hear it.
Brand new news.
Yeah. So I want to talk specifically about the polarity that finds its way into the church, which is a very grievous thing for my heart personally. But before we do that, I want to ask you guys from a personal standpoint, have you experienced constructive conversations and even edifying relationships? Do you have them with people on opposite ends of politics? For me, a solid yes. I work closely with someone who we're on opposite extremes politically, and I love him as my brother. He loves me as his brother, and we're a part of the body of Christ. That means something. And then I would say pretty much my whole mom's side of the family. I mean, and that's fam. I love them. I really disagree with their politics, but I love them. That's aunts and uncles and cousins, man.
Yeah. Like, are you asking for people in the church, or because you said family, but
well, yeah, right now, just generally speaking, have you been able to partake in constructive conversations where there wasn't belittling and it didn't provoke anger, and it was with someone you vehemently disagree with? So that's part, and then taking it further, do you have good relationships with people in general who you would say, I'm completely, I probably disagree with almost everything that you think politically?
I would, so me and my boss are like that. I always call him my Frost, my friend boss. And we are like,
That's adorable.
Bless your heart. Bless it.
I love him, Johnny, and he listens to me. So, but we are like night and day. We are night and day when it comes to politics. And we didn't really realize it until I've known him for 8 years now. And it was probably 3 or 4 years actually into the friendship. We had no idea that we were so different. I think we both assumed each other was each other's politics. And then something happened, and I snapped at him when he said something in a meeting, and he snapped back at me, and I was like, whoa, we're different. And I remember over COVID, we got in a huge, because there was only one other person that was allowed in the studio, and you had to be on other sides of the glass, and we were yelling at each other. And I remember thinking, okay, this is something that I cannot talk to him anymore about, because he could not, and I would say this to his face, he could not function the rest of the day with me because he'd be so mad.
Jeez.
I love him with my whole heart. I really do love him. But
mad at you or mad at the conversation?
Just mad at the conversation. He did an hour to cool down, where I could turn around. He is one of the most amazing geniuses when it comes to radio. He is a phenomenal boss. He is a good friend, but he has such a hard time cooling down. And I remember thinking, for the sake of our working relationship, I was like, hey, I don't think we should talk about this anymore. It does not change my feelings towards you as a boss and an employee and as a friend, but it does change the aftermath of our working relationship. So it's done. And he kind of agreed. He was like, yeah, I get way too hot-headed. I don't need to be bringing this up. We're not a political station. We're a music station. So he's like, let's just leave it as is. And I remember for a hot minute, I was a little disappointed. And I had to check myself, because I work in media, and I am part of the 4 people that are maybe really conservative in media, and the rest that I work with are opposite of me. And that has been so incredibly frustrating, because I have been ousted over and over and over again in my job of, why don't you believe like us? And straight up dragged in meetings before of name calling and stuff. So that part's frustrating, because then I'm like, okay, it's not constructive anymore. I'm not trying to change you. I never tried to change you. So why are you trying to change me? But at the same time, I always look at the aftermath of every conversation. And if we can't get to a point where we couldn't work anymore, I will say I have cut off people professionally at work. And I'm already thinking of 2 incidents right now. We got in a huge fight in a meeting 2 years ago. And honestly, we don't hang out anymore at work because the aftermath was so bad. So that's how I kind of judge.
Almost costly to your emotions?
Costly to the stability of progressing professionally.
Okay.
That one. Emotions, 100% too. But the third one was, I can have this conversation without attacking you. I really can. And I've worked really hard on that, especially being like in the job that I'm at. But if you cannot not attack me, then we can't have anything. So I definitely put it in a kind of a spot. And that's how I always judge whether or not I can progress politically with anybody. Is how are we going to be after this? Because I want to still be friends, or I still want to, I want you to still be in my small group, and I want you to still, so it's like, how can we do this? So that's my kind of litmus test at work. And then in my small group though, I would say it's kind of the same thing. We can dabble in some things, but once it gets to the point where it derails the mission, I pull it back. And I hate to, and sometimes I used to think that was such a cop-out. No politics. I used to say that. So my boyfriend says all the time, no politics, whenever he talks to his different friends.
Is that Valley Girl?
Yeah, like I used to think it was like, oh my God, no politics. And I was like, yeah, what a cop-out. We should be able to say, and I would say that. I go, we should be able to have adults and have a conversation that disagrees. Because I can tell you that I don't like a certain movie franchise and you don't either, and we can get really heated and then we move on professionally. Why can't it be the same way? Like we can all have dislikes on everything. So it was very hard for me, but I would say definitely in the church, that has definitely been something that I haven't really experienced till COVID. I'm gonna be super real about that. I never really experienced super differences in my direct circle until after COVID, when people were like disagreeing about the mass at Seacoast.
And it was impossible for
everybody was mad.
Pastor Josh.
I remember I was
impossible.
I was in the foyer and he came up to me defeated. And I was there celebrating somebody's birthday. I dropped some balloons off and we were wearing masks. But I had mine down. So he came up and I went up real quick and he was like, no more masks. I just got out of a meeting and I just got chewed. And I was like, what happened? He was like, I had 4 congregants. They were big time like donors, yell at me. I got out of this meeting, yelled at me. He goes, I can't make anybody happy. And this is at the time, this is Josh Walters. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he walked away and he goes, nobody's happy with me. I make nobody happy right now. And he walked away. And I was like, that man went through it today with some people. And that's when I realized I would never want to be a pastor. Honestly, that's what I said.
All right. I want to hear from all y'all. David?
I think for me, the biggest struggle is not realizing that something is a very important issue to someone, and then you bump into that conflict, and you like stumble into something that someone really cares about. Because you can't care about everything, and the people who do concern me. But all of us have issues that we care about more or less than another. And so
you're concerned about people that care about everything.
It really bothers me. People have really strong opinions on every single aspect or like discussion. That's concerning to me.
What if you're really passionate about a lot of things?
Then you should go to therapy.
I'm already in therapy. Jeez. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
But I hate that feeling of bumping into someone. Like you'll have a discussion with someone and you'll say like, oh, I don't think our healthcare system's that bad, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, well, my friend died of like overpaid bills or whatever. You're like, okay, well now I have no response. Obviously you're more invested in this than I am. I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings with that opinion. I don't have that opinion held close to my heart. That's just like something I'm sharing. And so for me, it's difficult when there are things that I do hold close to my heart. And sometimes people don't respect or treat that with respect. And so I try to not hurt the people who have those closely held opinions and try to have grace with people who do end up hurting my closely held opinions. But there's lots of things that I don't have a deep investment in that we can talk about. But it seems like more and more, a lot of more opinions are held close to people's hearts for one reason or another.
Yeah. Gosh, if everybody could walk with what you just said, that's well articulated.
Yeah, and how you said the grace too. My boyfriend's really big on perspective. Anytime I get upset, he goes, "Oh, they could have had a bad day. You had a bad day a couple days ago," and he said that to me one time, and I got upset with him. But then later, I remember saying like, yeah, I did have a bad day a couple days ago, and I wish people gave me more grace at work because of it. Yeah. And then that has really changed me. Like, I'm working so hard right now at being like, what was their perspective of it? Because their friend did die. So that's a reality to them.
Right.
So that's their truth. And you can't say, not important. Like, you can't say that because that's not fair to what they're living.
Right.
But at the same time, you can say, not important to me though.
Yeah. Yeah, I even take it to the point of somebody cuts me off in traffic or does something like that. I'm like, I know how I drove when I was trying to get my wife to the hospital when she was about to have a baby.
Say that,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Or getting bad news about your friend in the hospital, and you're like, I don't care. I'm going to get to the hospital, and I'll cut anybody off. You know, you just never know what's going. I mean, I'm sure it's probably 90% of the time it's it's unreasonable driving, but
Unreasonable.
In Charleston?
yeah.
No way.
How about you guys?
I tend to avoid it with certain people and in certain groups. Like you said, in our small group, I will say very clearly when certain people are there, we're not discussing this. Like, don't, like, I feel you going there. We're not doing that here. That's not the point. I do have a lot of friends within the church that I'm super, super close with, and we have very different ideas on things. And I think it's just more, I just kind of tread lightly and don't want to talk about it. But like within my family, I like to poke the bear. So I'm all like,
You intentionally
Yeah.
kind of.
So real, Amy.
I'm not a bear poker at all.
I know. I'm like, you're like, I know what they're.
Enneagram 9 here.
yeah, I'm an 8. So
Oh, well, there you have it.
That makes sense,
Yes.
and that makes
Yes.
sense.
So
I'm a 7.
I'm definitely
Oh,
like,
gosh. Okay.
I'm definitely like, oh, just different topics that I know is like irritating. You know, I'll be like, did you see this in the news? Knowing what's going to happen. And my husband looks at me and he's like,
Why? Like, why, Amy?
and I'm like, this is going to be really funny.
Amy.
Because some people cannot just relax. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they're panicking about it. And I'm like, you are so riled up and I'm laughing. You know what I mean? Like, calm down. Like, it's not that serious. It's not that serious because in the end, like, you have no control over it anyway.
Mm.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people they adopted beliefs like very much so based on how they were taught. Like, I mean, and that doesn't give you an excuse not to unlearn certain things that are unhealthy and I think in some cases just flat out wrong. But bottom line, even if someone has some beliefs that are in error, it's like, gosh, they were taught it, you know? So give them a break or have some patience, you know? John?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I will not argue. I saw.
My man.
Yes, you will.
You better argue a little bit.
I saw.
You didn't argue.
I know. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Moving
You
on.
were the biggest
like my
arguer
dad.
I've ever seen in my life, Sean.
Oh well, listen. I can argue.
Joey, you're like
Yes.
Amy.
I'm trying to make him argue.
You're
Yeah.
poking him.
I
Oh my
can argue.
gosh.
I'm a lawyer. I mean, come on. But
you're so
about
gentle.
politics, religion, the moral issue of the day. I saw an interview with Keanu Reeves, who's about my age, and he said, now as I look upon life with wiser eyes, he says, I won't argue with anybody. If you come up to me and tell me 2 + 2 is 5, I say absolutely.
I saw that. Yeah.
You saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm that way about politics and religion. And it's I have an interesting perspective because I run in a lot of writing circles, and writers are by and large pretty left leaning, and then I also have personal friends and church friends, and when we get together with that group, they're very right leaning, and I fluidly, work my way through, and then individually, and I used to be proud of this. It might not be something to be proud about, but I taught for over 20 years, and I don't think you could ask a single student that I ever taught if they knew what my politics were. They wouldn't know. And maybe it's the Gen X thing. I like if I have an opinion about something, the test is I have to go read about it, and I have to read the opposite viewpoint, and then I'll read the corresponding viewpoint, and then I'll work it out for myself. And then once I have that, then I'm comfortable and I'm confident in it, and I don't need to convince you, or I don't need to argue with you.
That's not the Gen Z way. That's the maturity way, by the way.
I was going to say, that sounds like you just want to know all
Synonymous,
viewpoints.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I just so I don't know. I like being comfortable in what I believe, but I don't need to foist it on anybody.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel the same way. All right. Well, within the church, I'll tell y'all something so on Sunday mornings, I'm online and reading chats, praying with people, and sometimes deleting things that don't need to be there. And I copied and pasted this. It's literally someone during a sermon posted, "Kick Nancy Mace and Tim Scott out of your church." That's just what they put in the chat. My response to that, and it goes both ways. This just happened to be a left-leaning person, coming down on right-leaning people. It goes both ways. That person either never had sight of what the church really is, or they lost sight of it. Why would you kick anybody out of the church for anything? Outside of stuff like very
illegal.
Divisive or illegal stuff.
Illegal stuff, yeah.
Like that, the church is supposed to be a place where you come, whether you're jacked up or not, whether you're right or not. Kick these people out of the church because you're on the other side of the fence politically.
That's where we have forgotten where the Word of God says, as far as it is in your hands, like as far as you can live at peace with others.
Yes.
Which is exactly what you were talking about. I'm going to know what I know and I'm going to hold it dear. And when the opportunity is there to share my heart and how I feel, and you're going to be able to respond in a mature way and hear it, even if it's different, great. But for those of you who are going to lose your mind, like, I'm not going to argue back, not poke the bear, like I said with my family.
and like Paul says, to the Jew be a Jew, to a Gentile be a Gentile. I know if you're conservative, you can't necessarily be a liberal, but you can for sure try to find common ground. That's what Paul's saying, is just find common ground so that you can share hope. And that's not even trying.
No.
So my question is, what do you guys think Christians need to let go of in order for there to be a truly unified church? I'm a pessimist when it comes to this. I just, and part of it, and I want to hear y'all's take on this too, is part of it is one side believes the other side is dangerous. That side thinks the other side is dangerous.
Yep.
If you voted for him, then you're dangerous to America and you need to be shouted at. If you read the Bible a certain way and you get that out of those verses, you're dangerous to the church. Like, seriously, one side thinks the other side is dangerous.
That's
and vice
also
versa.
called pride. Like, you are asserting that your way is better than someone else's. And again, the Lord doesn't say to do that. He's not screaming and yelling and beating people over the head. You're not agreeing with me. You know what I mean? It wasn't that he shied away. So like if Sadducees or Pharisees or whoever came at him, he had a word, but it was not like, I'm going to argue with you to the death. You know what I mean?
Well, and I'm sure that the tax collectors and some of the sinners that Jesus talks about at his table, I'm sure that they were left and right. I agree with that. Greg said something one time he didn't say something from a pulpit that day at family dinner. My mom's like, he should have said that, and we're talking. And I said, I don't know, Mom. Later, he said in the thing, Democrats and Republicans should both be able to come to Seacoast. He said that. And it really stuck with me because I was like, yeah, I should be able to invite any political persuasion to Seacoast and they be able to find a home there. The only thing that I would say, and I would challenge anybody on this, is I don't like when it's like a double standard. Like when I'm, like what I was saying at work and even with some of my friends, if they can bring something up that's very, very like hurtful and this is what happened to them, but immediately I'm like, I don't see that way, and immediately I start getting attacked just because I have a different point of view, that's when I struggle. And I think the church struggles with that because, churches are like always been on one side. I would say not, it's getting more on the other side, but it's like they've always been on one side of the political fence. And
in the South, in the Bible Belt.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like now it's like, anywhere you can really be anything. And I feel like I should be able to also have my opinion. And I think that's what I struggle with the most is like, if you can say it, then I can say it, or we both don't say it. And that's where I left it at work. And that's where we've all agreed. I don't know if it's the same way in the church. Like, I don't know if it is, or I don't know if it's the same way even out in public.
But like how you were saying that, like Greg would say both Republicans and Democrats should be able to come to Seacoast. That should not even have to be said, because it's not like you're only Christian if you're this or you're only that. And that's another thing, like your political party is not your faith. Your faith is based on Christ, not on a politician or a political party. So I take issue when it's like, like people assume one way or the other, and there's also more parties than the two that we have. There's a lot of people who are libertarian, and like that's totally something different.
Or some people who don't even know. Like, I didn't even vote. That's what somebody told me at work a couple days ago. I didn't even vote. I was like, oh, okay.
If I could answer the question, I would say if we could all get rid of the assumption that we know with certainty
that's good.
Anything, then we could have a conversation. And that's the part that drives me crazy is because, especially when it comes to religion, I'm like, how do you know? How do you know how the world is? You don't. I don't either. I mean, we're operating with a mere fraction of the information to be had here. So why are you going to die on that hill, so to speak? Years and years ago, I only heard him say it one time, but Greg, I think when the church was first starting, he had this wonderful sermon where he said that, the way I see it is we have essential beliefs and we have non-essential beliefs. And the essential beliefs, we can differ on those. We don't have to agree that, that
the non-essentials you can differ on.
Yeah, the non-essentials. Yeah, you could completely have the Catholics are going to say one thing, the Baptists are going to say another, and it's okay. Totally okay. And then find out what the essential belief was, and for Greg, it was that Jesus is.
That should be a short list.
Yeah, it was Jesus is the center of all of it. He came and he died for our sins, and he was raised to heaven, where he sits with God, his Father. And like, if we agree on that, then we're good. But it's like I was a big fan of Joseph Campbell's writings, and he had this great thing where he said the ways of man and the compared to the ways of God are so far beyond us that mankind isn't even able to imagine what the ways of God are like. And so again, I feel like I'm operating from a major position of ignorance. And so
isn't that scriptural too? Doesn't he say like my thoughts are above your thoughts?
That's right. He does.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I just teach a class at church. Like,
he's a teacher.
This is the way to do it. Like, and you also have like a very calming voice. You know what I mean? So I feel like I would be like, everything you say is true.
Well, it's one of the things I like most about this church is it's always been come as you are. The joke that Seacoast is the largest Catholic church in Charleston. You don't have to move your church letter. You don't have to be a practicing Catholic. You can come as you are. If you don't even believe, hey, even better. We want you. So anyway.
Yeah, I told Pastor Greg one time that I'm not happy about when more liberally minded people get upset about something that they think is not right, and I'm not happy when conservatives do that here either, but it says something healthy about the church that both sides of the political fence are upset sometimes. Like, in my opinion, it's like, okay, we're doing something right.
Who are we to say, it's like the Casting Crowd song, who are we to pick and choose who can hear about Jesus? That's like one of my favorite lines that they ever wrote. And that really has stuck with me too, because my dad told me one time when I was really upset about a meeting where it got political, and he was like, yeah, but you're there. And you're the one who loves Jesus, and they might not know it.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. And he goes, and I was upset but for a particular person. This really messed me up. And I want to tell you guys this. He said two things. One, he goes, I bet you nobody prayed for her today. So I was like, whoa, Dad, check. The second thing, he goes, how? Because I said, oh, yeah, but she's always doing this, this, and this, and she's making my life hard. She brings politics. And he goes, what are you doing to make her life easier? I bet you make it just as hard for her. Especially, I know you and you can get opinionated. And I was just like, first of all, Dad, attacked 100%. I'm your pride and joy. No. But second of all, I was like, that messed me up.
Yeah.
And I was like, because honestly.
Father Sparkle is smart.
I know. Mark Anderson. But especially because if I'm letting that get in the way of because I know that she's not a Christian. I know she's not. She's openly said that if I invited her to church one more time, she's going to burst into flames. That's literally what she said. And I was like, but it doesn't matter. I'm like, we should put that aside because I want you to know about Jesus. I want you to come to heaven with me. I want you to live in the peace and the freedom that I have. So honestly, if I have to take some of those darts, it sucks. But I'm like, how can I put them away and be like, okay, but God still loves you. And I might be a little mad, but God loves you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Amy, you touched on this. What I'm frustrated is when people seem to have their political party elevated over God's kingdom and or synonymous with it. It's like, whoa, no. Your politics isn't God's kingdom. That's not of this world. So
that was going to be what I jumped in on. Is people have a lot of faith in politics. The belief that this politician's going to fix everything, the other politician's going to ruin everything. There's so much weight put on that. And people really do believe, like, if we can just get X person in this position, everything's going to get better. All the problems are going to get solved. And I think that leads people to go along with things they might otherwise not have gone along with.
And also some Christians vote not necessarily party, but topic.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people who there's like this one topic and it's like whoever supports this, I'm never going to vote for them.
Single issue voters.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that makes me wild with what is happening. You know what I mean?
I understand that. Like if it's,
I was about to say, I kind of get it too.
yeah,
Because you can't care about everything.
right.
So you got to pick a couple
Or you
things.
need a therapist.
That's right.
And it's like what you said, you can't say that because it's really important to you, that it's not important at all. If that one issue was what was like, that's what affected me the most. And so I'm never going to vote somebody in that is that one issue that touched my heart. I do see that. I don't necessarily believe it, but I see that. I can see why they did it.
I cannot get it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, there's not.
Yeah. I also want to tag on what Sean was saying with the emphasis on humility and kind of like what your dad said when he called you out. Like, I think there needs to be a way for Christians to almost seek out the ways that they're wrong. Like that idea of growth. And I think when it comes to politics, we don't see that. Like in personal ways we do, like, oh, I want to stop drinking less. I want to have like a better relationship with my partner, or I want to improve my Bible time. But we don't usually take politics with that same attitude of like, God, show me where I'm wrong in my political opinions or whatever. And I really liked, I think you were along the same line, Sean, of like just that humility.
Well, I'll relate this short anecdote. I can't tell you how many times this happened to me in my career, but I'm going to say dozens where I made an assumption and was flat out wrong. So like had a girl come to me before class privately in the breezeway, said, I don't have my paper for today. And I said, okay, well, it's 10 points off being a day late. Can you get it to me tomorrow? And then she goes, yeah, because my grandfather passed away last night and we were at the funeral home. And then I was like, oh my gosh, you are such a heel, And then I was like, of course you can turn don't even write the paper if you want to.
That's how I be the teacher. Oh, here's an A just for telling me that.
Yeah. And so I don't, it was brought up earlier where I try to catch myself before I start making assumptions about the kind of day somebody's having or the type of person they are. And it happened, gosh, you just don't know what people are going through. And I have found that on most occasions, all of us are doing the very best we can.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Reinforce.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to treat people as if they're doing the best they can with what they have.
And sometimes, like you will definitely be remembered for something bad you said, but you will not be forgotten for something good you didn't say. I might have butchered that quote, but it's something
Say it
about.
again?
No, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah, it's like
Say it again?
you can be remembered for something bad that you said that you shouldn't have, but you'll never be forgotten about. It was basically saying like it's
You
better.
nailed it the first time, apparently. Today.
Yeah, what did I say?
Sorry,
Can you say it again?
I
I'm
made
sorry.
you say it again.
I know now I'm like, but basically the idea is you never regret something you didn't say when you said it in ignorance. Basically, that's the quote. Or you said it in anger or you thought it in anger. Like it's never a bad idea to think first. It's never a bad idea. It's never bit me in the butt doing like, oh, I wish I would have said something immediately when you found out later something happened. I'm going to find that quote. I'm going to send it to you guys.
Well,
it's
and,
really good.
We're studying Proverbs right now in my small group. And there's 3 of us who are like, and that includes me, there's 3 of us that are like, I'm not wise. Like, I'm not wise. Because a lot of Proverbs are dealing with speech. And I'm like, I have a problem. I do not always pause.
What was that, bear poking?
Yeah, like, you know, like
I'm laughing because I know her well, and I'm like, is that maybe an understatement?
you know, it's wild because like I feel like my mouth has like two waves. Like I can either be like a really inspiring, like really strong, like talk about my faith and it's a positive way, or I'm like a complete dumpster fire and there's like no middle ground, you know? And it's like we're reading this and a friend of mine, she keeps sending like cute emojis of like people whose like hair is on fire. She's like, I'm not wise either, you know? And I'm like, this is wild. Like, we should spend more time, you know, like the word says, spend more time worrying about where we need to improve rather than trying to fix everybody else.
Yeah.
You know,
Slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to anger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we're going to move on to racism and then Christian nationalism. But I've unpacked this theory that I've had, and I don't think that it's inerrant in the least, and I think you could even disagree with it. But I've been surprised that a lot of people are way less optimistic to where I end up with the younger current generation. So first of all, I think all the generations, I think for the most part, have progressed well. I reflect on my grandmother and just how racist she was when she was young and some memories that my dad has. But my theory is that the older generation, and I would probably put boomers in this, I believe that a long time ago, they were racist and they didn't care. All right. I believe my generation, we were racist and we didn't know. I believe that the younger generation, they are aware of racism and almost they can't even understand it. They're like, what? Like discriminating on the color of skin? I know that's overgeneralization, but I can say that personally, in my sphere of existence, I reflect on older people in my life where they were just racist and they weren't apologetic about it. I had to take a look at myself as I got older, and there was some ugliness in there, and not in a mean-spirited, hateful sort of way, but in a very ignorant, making assumptions about races. Because we grew up in public school, so we had white friends and black friends. That was just our makeup. So it wasn't in any way I didn't like black people, but it was, I know how things work. There's a lot of ignorance on my part, and there was a lot of lack of acknowledging things that now I realize need to be acknowledged. So I look at my kids, and they're like, racism? What? Like, I've literally had my kids be like, I don't even understand. So that's kind of, I'm curious what y'all think of those overgeneralizations. Does that resonate at all? And the lack of optimism, the pessimism that I hear is, I wouldn't be so sure about the younger generation. It's just not as socially acceptable. So you can't just go around saying words and speaking out racism. But and I've heard this from minorities. They're like, I wouldn't be so sure that racism is becoming less and less and less with younger generations. Unfortunately, that's a take that I get a lot.
Well, I'll jump in and say one of the things that I've become a lot more educated on and have been trying to internalize more is this idea of systemic racism. The idea that the systems we've built and the culture patterns that we follow have racist results and impacts on people. Like one of the ones, Charleston Area Justice Ministry does a lot of great work, and they found that a lot of racial profiling occurs when someone is stopped for like a nonviolent traffic stop. And so one of the things they're tackling is this idea of why are we stopping people on the road and the highway if there's not a violent issue happening? Why can't we just send them a fine in the mail or something? And so re-examining how we look at a lot of things that we just assume are normal but are having a racist impact can be really beneficial. And to me, that's a lot different. That's more of an evolution of like a personal failing and more of a systemic cultural awareness that needs to change. Mm-hmm. And how do we tackle this problem as a whole rather than just saying, oh, well, Steve's gone, so now racism is fixed. It's like, well, Steve wrote the bylaws of the company, so we need to re-examine those. Mm-hmm. And because our country and our culture is built by people who came before, it's important to examine what is still hanging around that was built, maybe with neutral intentions, but could still cause harm.
Mm-hmm.
That's been tough for me because I like to think I'm a good person, so racism is solved in my life, but there's still a lot of work to do.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I mean, a dear, she's like family to us. And I'm pretty sure she's a good bit younger than my mom. And she was on staff here at Seacoast. She was my administrative assistant. And when she was, I mean, a kid, maybe into adulthood, was not allowed at Folly Beach.
Yeah.
Do you remember her telling you that? And I'm thinking, we're talking 1970s.
Well, when she first told me that she was in the military and couldn't use, there were still like white and black fountains, I cried because I was like, you were good enough to fight and serve our country, but not good enough to use the same restroom. Like that blew me away.
And the systemic side, my friend Robbie Madison brought to my attention just how common generational wealth is for white people, and it's not for black people. For instance, my grandmother when she passed away, my dad and his brother sold that prime property on James Island and made a huge chunk of change. When my mom passes away, she's going to leave her condo and some money, and that's common with white people. It's not common in the African American community.
I would challenge I struggle with systematic racism that you said, because I went to public school. I did all of that. I would challenge that some of these issues are money-based. And the only reason why I say that is I played a video one time in our small group, and we were talking about racism and stuff like that. And it basically had like a bunch of kids line up, and for every single thing that the guy said, they took a step forward. And it was like, one of them was like, your dad left at a young age, took a step forward. And then another one was like, you were on school lunches, took a step forward. Well, at the very end, it was almost all black kids at the front and the white kids in the middle. Well, this girl burst into tears, and she goes, I would be with black kids because my dad left at a young age. My mom had multiple partners. It was like all these different things. And she goes, this isn't a matter of race. I was also on. So sometimes I challenge the systematic thing is the systems are not built for people that don't have money. Only because I could also relate to some of those. And it wasn't necessarily white or black. It was, well, I didn't have as much privilege because we were middle class.
But the difference too, though, with systemic racism is the cards are stacked against people who are minorities. So yes, there are poor white people, but it's exponentially not the same as black people.
Back then.
Yeah.
And we're still seeing the results
yes,
of it. Yeah,
it's still here,
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
That we need to be more inclusive with how we see, there's a lot of white people that they had big time setbacks and they didn't get the generational wealth. But I would agree with Amy that I think it's more consistent in a minority group. That's just my opinion. I'm glad you said that. Y'all?
Yeah. This is such a difficult issue, and I think where I struggle is with the systemic idea of it, because these were we weren't around when those things were happening, and now we're seeing the effects of that, and because we weren't there, I don't know how I fixed that. In my own life, I find that I'm probably more prejudiced than racist, and by that I mean like I really don't like people who are willfully ignorant. I work my butt off. If you're just gonna sit around and do nothing, then we're not gonna get along. So I've found that in my life it was try to focus on the quality. What exactly about that person is it that's making you, not like that person? Mm-hmm. And I think it's beyond even race. I know, I grew up in Atlanta in the 70s and the 80s, and when the AIDS epidemic hit in the mid-80s, Atlanta was a hot spot outside of San Francisco, and we didn't know what AIDS was. And these people were sick and dying, and I was working in a hospital, and there were people who blatantly refused to treat them. And so And also in my job, I was in the emergency room, and there were 20 men employed by the department. 17 of them were gay, and here I am, like a teenager, and I was like, gay people, this is their problem, not our problem, and so I was like immediately anti-gay, and then I got to know these people. And that was what really did it for me, is I realized these were some of the kindest, generous, hardworking, et cetera, people you could meet. And then I realized, man, you gotta get over yourself, because, coming back to the theme, you do not know. And so I've tried to feel that way about racism, but it exists. I think it's just as bad today.
Wow, that's a strong.
I agree.
That's a strong statement.
But look at what's going on in our culture now with ICE and with how people are being treated. It's not just like white and black. I mean, it's a bigger issue, and it's bad.
But y'all would say it's just not as culturally acceptable. For example, I saw it was one of the best documentaries on the LA riots and how policemen were talking to the media. I was like, I was 15 years old. I cannot believe they're talking that abrasively, racially. Like, you can't do that now. So that doesn't mean that the roots are good. Not without getting.
So we can separate children and parents and like put them in cages, and that's not just as bad.
But I've heard, I have different opinions on ICE, but I definitely think that I do think racism is here still, 100%. But I have also, being in my field, which I do work with a lot of African Americans, I have also felt extremely racist to being the only white person in the room, like a lot, to where like I have been outcasted, and I remember talking to them about it, being like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, and they were like, oh, this is how I felt at this time, and we were actually able to relate on it. So I would say that it's not necessarily one race against the other. Sure. It's when maybe you think your race is better than any other race. Because I've seen it, white, black, African, all of like ICE, all of that. Like I've seen it in all the races. I think it's when you don't know, because it doesn't go back to perspective. You can't say like, well, your childhood is bad because you experienced that versus, well, this is what I think now.
And I would imagine there's a lot of people that are, and I'm not saying you are necessarily, but totally. That vehemently push up against systemic racism. And I think, well, I would just want to plant this thought that I have peers my age whose very parents did sit-ins and were sprayed with fire hoses. Like, do you not think that I grew up in a better position than my peers whose very parents dealt with that while my dad was going to Clemson and getting a degree in civil engineering? I mean, there's got to be some sort of awareness of, oh, okay, so that still impacts current day life in some way, shape, or form. It seems like it would be easy to acknowledge just in general. We're going to move on to...
So we solved racism?
Yeah, we solved it.
Good job, guys. Good job.
We solved it.
Because society has made marginalization of people unacceptable, you would disagree because of... But I do think that there are... I mean, just with the culture of... I mean, I think it's overboard, honestly, when somebody even makes a mistake. It's like you can't get to the deeper heart issue. This person didn't mean what they said, and you're picking on the actual words. So I think it's excessive, but people can't get away with being outwardly racist in many contexts that they used to be able to. Is that a win if people's hearts aren't changed for the better? And I would say for the minorities, I think it probably is. They're at least growing up in a society where it's not acceptable, where Emmett Till, I mean, he's minding his own business in his aunt and uncle's house, and people could just go in there, grab him, and beat him to death. We would at least be like, that is an absolute atrocity. And it seems like civilization in America, we would all agree on that. You keep giving me the eye.
I'm just like, I don't feel like you're reading the news. I don't know. I mean, my daughter lives in California and her boyfriend is Chinese. So we have seen a lot up close and personal that is very disturbing, and a lot with our current leadership. And it's just very disturbing when people are afraid that were born here, but they're terrified. Like that's happening, and it's happening a lot of different places. There are several churches in Charleston that are Spanish-speaking churches, and they have their congregants hiding because they are terrified to go to church because they're afraid they're going to be rounded up and sent away. Like, that's not okay. And that's what's happening. And it's foolish for us to be like, it's black and white. It's not black and white. And yes, I understand we're in the South. And so for a long time, racism was black and white, but it's so much more than that. And we are allowing things to happen to people who are not born here or born here and look different. And it's not okay. It's not okay. And I think a lot of times, because we don't maybe have such a diverse population here as they might in California, I think maybe we're not as aware of it. But I think we need to read what's happening in the news and what's happening to families and realize that there's a lot of people in power that are doing whatever they want and saying whatever they want, and it's just fine. And there's a lot of Christians rallying behind people that aren't doing things that are necessarily very Christ-like. And I just think we need to remember, like, if we think we've gotten rid of it or we're doing so great, we're bound to mess up. You know? I mean, I just think we need to be very careful, because I know my daughter in particular, when she did her dissertation at the end, she made sure to speak about, like, how many people who are international have really poured into her and allowed her to grow and develop. And she got very emotional. And her mentor was like, you know, just saying, like, how her eyes were very open going to a school where so many different countries attend, you know, and she was able to hear people's hearts and say, like, I'm scared to death to live in this country right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought maybe it's just become more subversive, you know, but I agree with you that, you know, things like the examples that you cited, that kind of behavior would not be tolerated today, and you'd be in jail. But then I think about going to the comments section on
Dangerous spot
on
to go
social
to.
media and seeing what people were saying about, you know, the ICE stories, or, you know, the various racial things that have occurred with the police and that kind of thing. And yeah, people they're certainly not holding back there. And I don't know if this is something that this generation will solve, or even the next or the next, but I do feel like, I'm thinking of my children here, they are much more tolerant of people who are different than they are than I was growing up. And so agree. I hang my hat on that.
I think that there's a lot to be said about the younger generation, because you said something how they were like, what? And I would say my boyfriend's son is 12, and sometimes we'll talk about things and it right over his head, like he doesn't experience it in his school. But there's also a lot to be said about people's perspectives and what has happened to them, and also what you believe. Like you said, reading the news, I really don't believe in a lot of the news. And I work in media, and I know censorship is real because I can censor anything I want on the radio. So I actually don't believe a lot of media sources. I actually believe that, you know, some of the ICE stuff, there are violent criminals that are being deported, as they should, in my opinion, because it's a violent crime. And I think that there's always something that somebody is not seeing in the story, because, and I will stand on this because I am in media, people do not post the whole story. That is just a fact. I see it all the time. I overheard a colleague the other day be like, don't say that. And it was a part of the story. Straight up told me I couldn't censor myself. And I was like, no, I'm going to say everything. And I remember talking about it. And I think that there's always a part of the racial side that we will never see. And I think also being, like I said earlier, I've experienced extreme racism in my job a lot with some of my colleagues. And a lot of people discredit that because I'm white. And I'm like, that's not fair. Like, people have thrown insults at me completely unprovoked in meetings. That's not fair. Just like it's not fair for them. And so that's why, like, sometimes I struggle with the systematic racism, because I've experienced it so graphically in my own like job, but I also experienced it in college too, just being in different plays. And I was a theater major and I was a minority in one of my shows and I was picked on a lot because of it. And so sometimes I do struggle seeing that because I've also been a product of it on my end. So I think it's both. I'm always going to say everybody has experienced a little bit of racism, I think. And I've seen it. I've seen it in my job and I've seen it with my friends. Black and white and Hispanic. I know people that are scared too to go out because of ICE. I know people that are pro-ICE. I know all of that. And it's like, but at the same time, don't we live to where we can have all those different opinions and still love each other through it? That's what
one would hope.
Yeah. Well, you said that earlier. You're like, can we have a conversation?
Yeah.
What would the aftermath be of racism? Because that's a hard thing right now at my job.
Yeah. I want to hear something. So, go ahead.
But the difference too is like, yes, there's truth that like, I don't trust everything the media says at all. But there's also, if there's even one case of somebody being mistreated, it's worth looking into. You know, like I understand that there are people who are violent that get deported, and that is important. But there are lots of people who are being mistreated, and we're just like, well, that's okay, and it's not okay. You know.
But I would challenge, where is that source coming from? Like seriously, like
people that I know.
Like that would be the only fact that I would take that because I can't read statistics anymore without being like, that was probably padded. Like even I'm on a million different survey boards, and when they survey me, a lot of times I want to be like, how many people have you called?
But that's like what I'm saying. Like if you are out of South Carolina, out of Charleston, go to California.
That's where my best friend lives there. I'm there a lot. Yeah.
Sit down at a table where you are the minority at the table and listen to what they have to say.
Oh, definitely.
And 100%. It is life-changing. It is life-changing. Like just perspectives flipping on a dime and just being like, I'm pretty small-minded. And I've always thought like, you know what? I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood. I've always, eat, sleep, drink, hang out, have friends of the opposite race, listen to them, care about them, love them. And so I was always like, well, I'm not a problem. And then I was like, I am a problem because I'm looking at everything as if it's black and white, and I'm not going beyond that because that's not necessarily what I'm faced with. But I don't think anyone in our country should feel terrified of what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll tell y'all something so sweet and I just think beautiful. I asked Waylon probably last year, I said, Hank, did you know that when we got you into full-time preschool, they had a program in Charleston County, we weren't able to get you into a school near West Ashley or James Island, so we went to a school downtown. I said, you know you were the only white kid in the class? He's like, nope. Like, doesn't even, like, remembers that school, does not recall being the only white. I was just like, that is so cool.
That is really nice.
That wasn't even a thing to him. You want to say anything before we move on to Christian nationalism, Mr. David?
No, I just agree with what all of us have been saying. Is it's important to examine both your biases and society and the information you take in, and to not stop that growth and that pursuit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a great line that says, live the gospel every day, and when necessary, use words. Mm-hmm. And I think
that's good.
If I can catch myself, it doesn't matter who you are, and I should treat you the way that Jesus would treat you. Mm-hmm. And that's the standard that, we need to set. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. And me especially, I mean, usually by Wednesday, Sunday's message is long gone, right? So I've tried in my life to remember that, especially when I find myself like, I don't believe that, or you're just flat out wrong, or you know what, get off the couch, that kind of thing. I catch yourself, Sean. You don't know, and that's our bar should be higher, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so we should be transcending that if we could, if it's even possible. But that's what I try to do.
Yeah. Like we talk so, and for for good reason we have such a negative attitude towards the Pharisees, and then just go to John 3 and see how Jesus actually interacted and treated a Pharisee.
Nicodemus.
Yeah.
So I thought about how we were going to delve into this, and what I decided to do was I'm a poser writer. I like to write, but I'm not that great at it. But I wrote down my thoughts on when it comes to this perception of America being a Christian nation, because I did also really want to articulate this. And then I thought I would allow you guys to poke holes in this, agree, disagree, and then we'll wrap things up outside of me presenting a scenario that actually took place here at Seacoast, and me and some of my podcast mates have already talked about this on here, but I would love to hear what you guys say, and then hear from Gen Z and Boomers. And what's so cool is as we're having this conversation, it's like I cannot wait to hear what the older folks have to say about this stuff and what the younger. I'm really excited personally.
So we're the most boring group? Is that
I know.
what you're saying?
Thank you for discrediting us.
It's like, this is great, and it's making me think, like, what are the youngsters going to say? Like, what are the older guys going to say?
They're going to blame us.
All right, so I want to start by saying I love this country. I'm a patriot. Seeing the diversity of this nation represented at the Olympics genuinely moves me, and I'll admit I've gotten choked up watching jets fly over a stadium after the national anthem. My dad is a Vietnam vet. His dad served in World War II. I'm proud of them and grateful for what they gave. We have real problems here, like any country does, but we're still a place people are trying to get to, and I don't take that lightly. Now, do I think America is a Christian nation? No. And honestly, I don't think that's even a helpful category, because countries can't be born again. But I'd also push back on the idea that we've been built on Christian values, because the evidence doesn't really support that either. When people say we need to get back to the days when prayer was in schools, I'd ask them to sit with that for a second, because a lot of those same days, black kids couldn't sit in class with white kids. We can't be selective about which history we're nostalgic for. I'm not asking America to be a Christian nation. That's not what a country is for. A country's job is to organize society and keep its people safe. I don't even need America to turn the other cheek. But here's the thing, that sounds really professional. Here's the thing. If we had been founded on genuine Christian principles, we would have treated Native Americans differently. We wouldn't have built an economy on slavery, and the century after the Civil War wouldn't have looked the way it did for minorities. The history doesn't lie, and I think we can love our country while respecting and mourning the pain our history has caused. I'm still thankful for my country, but I understand if it's harder for others to share that gratefulness.
That was what you wrote, you said? Or
Yeah.
you read that somewhere? Oh,
No,
cool.
That's spectacular.
Well written.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that was.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so true. It sort of crystallized what I was trying to get at a while ago, which is that how do you reconcile our history with the kind of person we want to be today, And you can't ignore the past, you have to acknowledge that, but you don't have to dislike your country because of its past. I think we need to educate ourselves as much as possible. We need to read histories, varied histories, right? And try to understand why people were the way they were. An example in my life, my wife's grandfather, very prejudiced against Asians. And
My grandfather was too.
and I found out very quickly after that incident that he was in the Merchant Marines, and he was at Pearl Harbor the day after it was bombed. And what he saw, forever sort of altered his thinking, and until the day he died, he that was the thing. And it was real easy to look at him and go, "Oh, that racist old man over there, grumpy," right? But then, if you knew that history, suddenly it's like the script is flipped. And I as far as our nation goes, I don't think we're a Christian nation either. And and it saddens me a little bit. And
I would even give it, maybe we're a Christian nation when it comes to the religion, but I don't want any part of a religion. I want a relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so I don't know. I guess the reason you have to find a way to sleep at night, right? So I just shrink the bubble, and then I think about, okay, well, my family, my loved ones, my friends, and let's take care of that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough right now.
And y'all could probably see or hear my voice. Like, it really grieves me when I hear people so passively say, "We just need to get back to the good old days," and then they mention prayer in schools, and I'm like, are you referring to the 60s? Like, are you seriously referring to the 60s and calling that the good old days?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can't pick and choose.
Study the 60s.
Histories that you want to believe in.
That's right. Yeah.
David, are you a patriot? Would you consider yourself patriotic?
No.
Yeah.
I care a lot about my community and my city and like my church and, my local political organizations. But I hesitate to put faith and trust and hope in things that I don't have a ton of control over. And so I try to invest in the things that I do have control over. Mm-hmm. So, for example, school board elections are coming up. I have a lot of investment in that, and I have a lot of hope for that. And so for those kinds of things, yes, I'm like a big supporter. I'm a fan. I care about that. But as far as like the next, presidential election, I'll vote as my duty, and that's kind of as much as I care to be invested.
Yeah.
If you, I always found this to be a great litmus test, and there's nothing behind my asking you the question, but if there were a draft today, and you were selected to go, would you go to war?
They've been talking about it.
I'm about to say they've been talking about it.
Yeah, I would not.
Yeah, see, and I think I think there are a ton of reasons that would make very good sense, and then I'd be like, where are we going? I'd be the first in line, and then I'm like, well, why would you do that? And maybe I'm like you. I'm so sentimental about my country. If my country needs me, then I'm going, because I would not have the life I have without this country. And so
I would say I agree with what you said. I consider me a patriot because of when I think of patriotism, like I said, it's seeing the diversity, seeing the American leadership and struggles in the African American community, like Frederick Douglass, one of the most brilliant minds ever, and Martin Luther King and Harriet Tubman, all the way to Abraham Lincoln and George. It's like so many, like, oh, these are my people. It's not a faith in my country as far as like, oh, we're doing the good stuff sort of thing. I mean, I see patriotism as like a fond reflection of certain things about our country, but
of like the past, like you're saying, like you said, the fondness of.
Well, I'm just saying, even watching the Olympics and watching us.
Don't even get me started. I'll cry over Olympics every time.
And see Asian Americans, African Americans, Hispanic. I love it. I'm like, it's becoming a little more common in other countries, but it's pretty dynamic how diverse we are.
I always thought that we were really diverse. I mean, I remember learning about why, like, all the different people coming in, the great melting pot. I remember doing a whole series where we had to pick a generation and study like international law and like what we believed in. I remember learning about that at Wando and thinking it was really cool that a lot of people came in, and a lot of people do come to America for a dream that is not possible in their country. I mean, I'm an extreme patriot. I love America. I love my country, and I will die on that hill every day. My boyfriend's a veteran of the Afghan War. He went 3 tours there, and it's really funny, though, because talking to him, first of all, if you ever want a position on a war, talk to somebody who went to a war recently. It will mess you up a little bit, because Nick has he's like, a lot of people joke about war and like, oh, we should have done this or we should have done that. He was like, you weren't there. I was there and I saw like what happened. So that has changed my perspective a little bit, because I was a little cavalier with the term war, because I didn't have to grow up in any type of, my dad didn't go serve. My grandpa did, but my dad didn't, and I wasn't even born yet when my grandpa served. And so that definitely is something that I struggle with, because I do think we should have national pride. And I've always thought about that. Other countries have national pride. A lot of people love their countries. So I think it's okay.
Should? That's interesting.
I do. I think
Interesting.
you should love where you live. And if you don't love where you live, then it's perfectly within your right to move somewhere else that you love more. And I say that as Americans, but I also say that as I lived with my German roommate for 3 years, and she loved Germany, and I would ask her, well, what do you think about the Holocaust? I mean, I was poking her too. And I know I have to say this, because you know what she said? She said, I'm so sorry for that. I went to concentration camps. In elementary school, they took them.
Wow, that's a heavy field trip.
Yeah.
5th, 6th, and 7th grade.
We went
she
to see how Krispy Kreme donuts were made.
I know.
Yeah, and I remember saying, well, what are your thoughts? And she goes, I'm so sorry, and I will always be so sorry for that, but it doesn't mean that I don't love Germany. And I know that we've changed. She goes, I know that we've changed. I know we're a better country because of it, but I'm so sorry that it happened. And I still love Germany. And I was like, wow, that's a big statement from someone who went twice a year for 3 years straight to all the concentration camps. And I said, are you ashamed? And she goes, I am. I'm really ashamed of that part of history for me. And I'm definitely ashamed of some parts of America that are horrible. And I do agree, you cannot pick and choose the history that you love. It's history. You got to either learn from it or not learn from it. And it's interesting because she's like, but I'm not wrong to love Germany.
Right. I mean, slavery
Yeah.
is a worldwide problem, and it always has been. So
Yeah.
I'm not even picking on America. I'm saying
Yeah.
don't set us aside as this light beacon on a hill when we have the same baggage as
Yeah.
you see all over the place. We're wrapping this thing up. Do you guys want to chime in before I give y'all a real life scenario of something that happened at Seacoast involving this kind of talk? No more chiming in? Are you worried about what you would say? Are you really?
Yeah.
Well, then you should say.
Are you worried about crying?
I mean, not well, a little bit, yeah. But
Would you rather not? I'm not going to force
yeah,
you to talk.
no, it's probably better. I don't,
Okay. All right. I'll
But I
respect
mean,
that.
crying and just being angry, and I don't want to be angry.
Okay.
You'll be on the Patreon cut of this episode, though. Right?
I was about to say, is there little Amy Unfiltered?
You're upsetting our listeners so much. Like everybody's like, just say it.
I know right now. They're like, just say it.
It's just better not to.
John?
Yeah, I mean, I've everything you're saying. I'm like nodding, Sparkle. I love where I live, and I've tried to improve my own mind by reading the history, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I kind of feel like the same way. Like if my brother works for an international company, and so he travels to Europe, and he says all people want to talk about is, what's wrong with your country, and how on earth did you ever, elect that president? And he's like, all of a sudden, I'm the spokesperson for an entire country.
Entire America. That's a lot of pressure.
and I think to myself, if I were in his shoes, like, what would I say? And I think I would say something similar to what you were saying. Like, I would acknowledge the horrible things that happen, and I would say, yeah, I'm ashamed of that, but I'm apologetic, and we are better. And
You can have two emotions at once. You can be sorry that really bad history happened, but you can also love the country that has given me every opportunity
exactly
that I've ever gotten, and that I'm so happy that people want to come. And I'm like, yeah, I get that.
I keep watching my friend over here. Still want to stay silent?
I mean, maybe it's going to come across super cynical, but like,
We're gonna let you close this discussion out. So.
okay, well, that's too much pressure.
No,
I just think maybe I'm super cynical, but I just think I'm not super proud of who we are right now.
Mhm.
I'm not, and I think, Jesus wasn't go Judea. You know what I mean? He wasn't like, yay, Bethlehem. He was like thinking more, and like I just don't think it matters where you live, and I don't think this is even like, it doesn't even matter. What matters is, are we salt? Are we light?
Which is the church's job.
Yeah.
Or humanity's job.
Yeah. I mean, I just think
Mhm.
I would agree. I agree with you. I mean, what I was saying, I feel, but I kind of agree with you too. I don't think that this is a high point for our country right now.
No.
I mean, I almost liken my patriotism to my being a fan of Green Bay Packers. It's like, that's just my team. Yeah, it's just like, this is just my country. That's kind of where,
and it doesn't mean that I don't love where I live, because I am thankful that I'm in a country that isn't a third world nation.
Or that you can have the freedom to say that.
Yeah.
A lot of countries, you cannot say anything bad about your country.
Yeah.
And now we live where you can be like, yeah, I'm not proud
For
of
now.
it. Yeah.
And you're showing too much skin for some countries.
I know, tragedy.
Yeah.
Trashy.
All right. Well, we talked about this before, and I know Lynn was there, and I know Jack was there, and I can't remember who the fourth person was, but we discussed this. We did some digging, and this did not come from leadership. And my guess would be that the leadership here would probably have opted not to do this, but it very well could happen again, because we're just a very loosey-goosey culture in many regards. We just are, we don't put the clamp down on certain things. But July the 4th, there will very likely be little American flags all across the street, all around the Long Point campus. And for varying reasons, I know me, Lynn, and Jack all would say not necessary and highly discourage it. And I understand people's perspective as, but here's the one nuance is we put up Christmas decorations for Christmas. This is a holiday celebrating America. So what's the big deal?
And we turned 250 this year.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get that, and that's the one perspective I can appreciate. Okay, it's a holiday for America. You're decorating in American colors, but I think for some people, for many people, that is not something that they're coming to church for to see. They don't want to see it because they don't agree with you. And the church is supposed to be a unifying thing where we have common ground because we're following Christ. It doesn't have anything to do with our country. And given that we know that that could be a polarizing thing, remove it. Take it off. Like, don't do that. Not churches. So that's kind of where I'm at, but I want to hear from all of y'all, then we'll call it a day. And then we got one more recording with you but little American flags all over the Long Point campus. Yes or no, Sean?
In light of everything that I've said, no. And I'll give a sort of an academic answer to this. My study of the law has taught me some amazing things about things we did right, like different branches of government, and keeping church and state separate in a civilized country, I think is an essential value to have from a pragmatic point of view. And so I feel like we would be trying to dress up for a party that we weren't invited to. And it's to say nothing about the value of the church or what the church does. It's just that that's not our thing. And so I wouldn't do it.
Amy is a no and no comment. I'm just kidding. Do you want to
what's really funny is I think it was a year and a half ago, I had a huge argument with my mom because she was talking about her church had taken the American flag out. And I was like, that's crazy. And I was like arguing with her. And then
crazy that she was upset that they were removing it?
Yeah, I was like, that's crazy. Like, why would you want it removed? I don't understand.
Oh, so you were backing the American flag being there?
Yeah, I was like, that's crazy to me. Like, what are you talking about? And then the more and the more and the more I thought about it and mulled it over and thought about, what the reasoning was behind it, I was like, yeah, why? And I guess it's just because I grew up where, you said a pledge allegiance to the flag and you said a pledge allegiance to the Christian flag, what I mean? Not pledge of allegiance, but whatever it is, the
devotion thing.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I guess it is. I pledge allegiance to the Christian flag. I guess it is that, But, I just grew up where that was normal, and so I guess I was like, that's weird to take the flag out. But now I look at it and I'm like, that they're not necessarily supporting one another. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think my government today looks anything like what my faith is. So I don't want someone to drive by not knowing what Seacoast is about and think it is political, because we're not.
Right. Yeah, and when there's so many people that have that struggle, and I would even say, personally, I would say an issue with pairing country with their faith, that's a stumbling block.
Yeah.
You're giving them more ammunition to keep doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You guys?
Yeah, I agree. I think unless I don't think that the church should have little American flags on the lawn, just because, like you said, we are in a very divided time. We are in a difficult political time. And, same way that if you gave everybody a strip of bacon on their way in, that would turn away some vegans, even though bacon is like not a bad thing morally.
I would love that.
That sounds like a sermon illustration, Greg.
Yeah.
But I think the American flag's the same thing. For everybody who would enjoy it, if there's a chance that some people might not appreciate it, it's not worth it.
If we could start this conversation today with saying that we know that politics is polarizing for the church and that we have difficulty in that arena, then why?
Don't cause your brother to stumble.
Yeah, why?
Yep.
I would say put them all over Seacoast.
Yeah.
I love America. And to me, it's a flag. I can remove it. I can remove the religion out of it. I love America. I love what we stand for. I love that people come here and they fulfill the dreams that they could not fulfill. I love that I've had the ability to live in this country, that I'm so incredibly free all the time. And so to me, I look at it as a celebration of America's birthday. We're 250. We're doing a lot of stuff in my job about it and all the events that we're doing. So to me, I look at it as like, oh, cool, we're celebrating 4th of July, which is such a fun holiday. Mm-hmm. So that's what I don't really assign politics with it. I just assign
I get that.
Yeah, I think because you're right. We
Kinda
do
like
decorate
the Christmas decor.
Yeah, and also I think it's so okay. I do think that people are so afraid to say they love America, and that is one thing that bothers me. I am perfectly okay saying I love my country. And I should not be persecuted for that. I should not be persecuted for saying I love America. And I have a whole American wardrobe that I wear the whole week, and I'm proud to wear it. But if someone doesn't want to wear it, I'm not going to be like, you're not patriotic.
You're not supposed to wear the flag.
I know. Well, it's the sparkly version. It really is. It's a half sparkly dress. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not judging you for not wanting to wear it, but I also shouldn't be judged for wanting to.
I would agree.
Yeah. So it's
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. And honestly, I would look at that even further as I would even ask leadership, what is the motivation? I would ask for real.
Yeah. Again, I don't think it came. We got to the bottom of it. It's not coming from leadership. There's people that can just kind of do stuff, and
they just do themselves. The rogue,
ish.
Insurgents.
What? That means I can put
in
sparkly
other words,
stuff anywhere.
In other words, they didn't go to Josh and say, "Hey, let's clear this with you. Here's what we're going to do."
Oh,
and Josh isn't going to arrive. And first of all, he's probably a little impartial. But I'm speaking for Josh. I don't know, but he's certainly not going to walk around and pick them all up.
No, 100%. Yeah.
But it's again, I feel like it boils down to, as far as you are able, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with others. Mm-hmm. If you know that something is causing someone to stumble, why?
Yeah.
But if it gives somebody else a lot of pride to be like, I really do love being here and I want to share it.
But share it at your house, share it at your work, share it wherever. But the church is the church, and it is supposed to be a hospital and not a country club.
Gotcha. But you guys just arm wrestle, both of you, right now. Right?
No, we're both wearing the same color dress. I know. We came in alike. See?
Awesome. All right. Well, love talking to y'all. And I love this because we demonstrated, because I think there's been some very differing points of view, and I love that you spoke up and were very confident in your views, and I
appreciate you
great.
bravery speaking up too.
Iron sharpens iron.
Man, I haven't showed my cards in years, man. You guys got me just
Joey loves to be like, and now what do you think about that?
Yeah.
It's piercing eyes, and it's like, you don't have to have an opinion, but do you?
So I'm gonna drive home the whole time. I'm gonna be like, I said too much.
You've been listening to Seacoast Church's Things You Won't Hear on Sunday podcast. We are now on Instagram. Go to instagram.com/SeacoastPod for your one-stop shop to interact with this podcast and chime into the conversation. You can also be a patron of the podcast and receive exclusive content and live feeds of our recordings. All of your support goes towards Seacoast ministry efforts and local presence. All of this information is in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening.